Yes, we're live. We're live. Sorry I'm late. This is your daily F1 news. Lots has been going on today. I'm sorry about my tardiness. Some slight technical difficulties, but we are on now. So yes, this is your daily F1 news. Lots been going on and some big developments in the 2026 engine wars and an unlikely winning candidate so far. We've got some we've been joining up the dots with what's going on with the engine wars for 2026. And as you can see by the thumbnail, Audi are looking pretty darn good. And I'll explain why in this show. Also got some updates on Christian Horner. New developments and a new suitor for him, a new team, which was not in my Horner predictions from earlier, from the end of last week, and we'll be talking about that. But some serious movement on the Christian Horner situation, and we're going to get into all of it. We're winging it tonight. It's Thursday night, right? And it's Thursday night, and we're feeling all right. So get in the chat, and we're going to have this where you drive the show. So if you're watching right now, get in the chat, tell me you're here, and yeah, we'll get into it. So I'm going to start with the engine wars. Okay, so I'm going to bring up Nico Hulkenberg because he's the most appropriate graphic. Obviously, Sauber are becoming Audi in 2026. Nico Hulkenberg's going to be driving for them. He's confirmed. And Gabriele Bortoleto also going to be driving for Audi next year. But the big news is that Sauber team that's becoming a works Audi team is they're running an Audi powertrain. Okay, so how can Audi be winning the powertrain race? That's probably what you're thinking. Well, let me tell you how. This is an article that's coming out of Planet F1. So as we know, Jonathan Wheatley left Red Bull, became team principal over at Sauber. Done a pretty good job, to be fair. He gave Bortoleto his drive. Now, that's an interesting appointment. But what's an even more interesting appointment is that Mattia Binotto, who has been appointed the Chief Operating Officer and Chief Technical Officer. Now, who is Binotto? Well, he was the guy behind... Well, he had the top job at Ferrari from 2019, building the Ferrari engines. So now it's starting to make sense, isn't it? That the two lead designers of the 2026 Ferrari engine, Schmidt and Zimmerman, who have been poached to go and work at Audi and who have let slip that Ferrari power unit is not looking good, and they've not even had it on a dyno or on a bench, and they've jumped ship. Well, this is interesting because here's what Audi have been saying about their power unit. He said, we're on a schedule with our dyno program. The engine's been on the dyno for a while now. So already they are months ahead of the Ferrari power unit. It's an exciting period in the Audi F1 project, obviously mating chassis and powertrain together for the first time in December. Well, that's right. The simulator program naturally leans towards 2026 as well. So everything in that Sauber team is for 2026. Their power unit development is months ahead of Ferrari. And they also say the only thing that we're working on now is on reliability. So what does that tell us? That tells us that their power unit is quick and it's got power, meaning they're hitting all their metrics. So now what they're doing, and they've had a dyno program running for ages, now it's about reliability. So what this tells me is that Audi are way ahead of Ferrari. Way ahead. And it also tells me that because it's Ferrari's best guy, Binotto, who actually built good Ferrari engines, who is their Chief Operating Officer and Chief Technical Officer, and then the two lead Ferrari engineers, designers of the 2026 engine, have come over to Audi. Audi have built a pretty good team. And not to mention Audi have this incredible pedigree of winning in pretty much every motorsport they're in. It's looking pretty exciting for Audi. If all they're working on now is reliability, that means they've got pace, they've got power, they've got the right numbers on the dyno. It tells me it's going to be a freaking good engine, which is exactly the sort of news that I want to hear for F1 2026. I want there to be new manufacturers like Audi coming into the sport and doing well. I want Cadillac to do well. I want the racing to be competitive, and I want people who are going out there, works teams with their own power units. You know, I want them to be as good as Mercedes or even better. And I want them to be as good as Ferrari or better. I want it to be competitive. That's what we all want. I don't want a new team to come on the grid and build their power unit for the first time and it be an absolute bag of spanners. But all this news coming out, and you've got to remember with this stuff, it's what they don't tell you and what they do tell you. The truth lies in the subtext. And the subtext of that article is, yeah, our power unit's quick. And now we're working on reliability. It's been on the dyno for months. And we know Ferraris hasn't been on the dyno for months. This is very, very good news for Audi. And it's very, very good for Nico Hülkenberg. Now, it's funny, like, we're talking about Nico Hülkenberg. Nico Hülkenberg been in the sport 14 years and got his first ever podium at Silverstone this year. And do you know what? I remember when he first came onto the scene, Nico Hülkenberg, and God, he was quick. And people were saying, God, this is the next Schumacher. And then he got this really bad reputation as a difficult driver to work with. Pig-headed, stubborn, arrogant. And he just never really got his shot. But he's going to be driving in a works Audi next season. And he could be at the front. He could. Audi could absolutely be a front runner. If you think what they've done in all the other disciplines of motorsport, from rallying to Le Mans to the Dakar, every single discipline, all different, Audi have been amazing. And yes, they're part of the Volkswagen Group, but Volkswagen Group own Lamborghini, they own Porsche, they own Audi. Like, if you think of the technical expertise in their entire group that will feed into that team if needed, I'm actually quite excited. And then you've got the young pretender, Gabriel Bortoleto, who we know is quick. Won at the first time of Aston in F3, won the championship, won F2. Very, very quick driver. We've seen glimpses of it this year where he has been absolutely superb. So yeah, it's actually very, very exciting that Audi are making noises like that. I mean, the whole article it's fascinating, because when you're reading between the subtext, they say, Wheatley confirmed that the Audi's F1's engine program is on target with the team's current focus on reliability. Then backed up, well, it's been on the dyno program. That means they've built their engine and now they're just trying to break it. It means they've hit their targets. Now, we don't know how reliable the Ferrari power unit is. The only other team will be the other German manufacturer, which is Mercedes. They're going to bring a solid, reliable power unit, obviously. But Audi, do not rule them out. And if they put a good car around that engine, I mean, it's one to watch. I'm quite excited to see what's happening. But if I had to put from 1 to 3, or 1 to 5, let's have all the power units. This is my guess. I think you've got Mercedes, Honda, and Audi now as your 3 top engines. That's my guess. Then I think you've got Ferrari and the Red Bull powertrain. That's my guess, as in the order of the Red Bull Ford one. I would say those two are possibly the weakest ones. that from the news that's coming out with Red Bull basically lobbying the FIA to have a margin of variance between this strict 50-50 rule between the internal combustion engine and the electrification. They were the only team, the only power unit manufacturer asking for that, where they wanted a 5 to 10% margin of variance. So that means that at times they could receive 60% of the power from the engine and 40% of the electrification. They were the only team that asked for that, and the FIA are granting it. Well, what does that tell us? It tells us that their power unit is not looking that great. And then the Ferrari power unit, well, they've lost their lead engineers. They've not had it on a dyno. I just can't see it being good. I honestly can't see it being great. So I think you're going to find that we're going to have Mercedes, Audi, and Honda as your three best engines next season. And that is my prediction. And Audi could be the best engine. And here's why the power units are so important for 2026. Because we are losing the ground effect era of Formula One. And basically, it's going to come down to the power unit. All the teams are saying it. There is active aero on the cars, but what is going to win, what's going to be the most important element is not going to be aero. It's going to be power. And that is what is going to, that the winning team will have the best engine, for sure. And it could be Audi, could be Aston Martin. And the Aston Martin comment brings me on nicely to some very interesting news. Hey Gemma, I'm going to go to the chat. Hey Gemma, nice to see you in the chat. Oh, imagine so Gemma's saying, imagine the Honda engine in an Adrian Newey car. Honestly, get ready for that. Get ready for that. And this brings me nicely on to Aston Martin, Gemma. As we mentioned, Adrian Newey. And we also go back to our old friend. And you can't keep this man out of the news, can you? Christian Horner. Right, so we've had some big developments on the Christian Horner story today. As you know, I've talked about it a lot on the daily news shows about his options, from his options with Alpine to buy a 20% stake for 300 million. The Haas story, now he's got all this American money behind him from the investment funds, which have got billions. And Haas then becomes an option. And then we've also talked about Horner Racing, a whole brand new team. But I discounted another option because I thought Christian Horner's relationship with Adrian Newey was a problem. I think I was wrong. So I was running with these options. Audi's off the table. I can tell you that now. Alpine is still on the table. Still a real possibility. Haas is looking a little bit less likely because Gene Haas doesn't want to sell a big enough stake. So here's your news. We all love Aston Martin and we all love Lawrence Stroll. Which is why this becomes interesting. So Lawrence Stroll is actively looking to raise investment into Aston Martin Racing. Like actively right now. He is prioritizing finding investors. Now, Horner has really got, I would say, the most likely two routes now back to the grid, apart from Horner Racing, are Alpine, still in play, and Aston Martin. Because Aston Martin recently sold shares in their team for 110 million. That valued their entire operation at 2.4 billion. So the only way Horner gets into that team is with his new investment. We know he's walking away with 100 million, but that ain't going to touch the sides. So Alpine, the deal's about 300 million. If he buys a stake in Aston Martin Racing, it could be upwards towards 800 million to a billion. which means he's obviously bringing some serious backing with him. And Lawrence Stroll wants to sell a big chunk of the team because he wants to drive that team forward. He doesn't want to keep funding it with his own money. So now Horner has got all of this backing. It's a legitimate option. Adrian Newey owns a small stake in that team. Now, I thought Aston Martin was not an option because I thought him and Adrian Newey had completely fallen out when Newey left Red Bull. Because Newey left Red Bull at a time that Horner was being investigated internally because of the text messages and the unpleasantness with the employee, which he was exonerated from. What's been happening since then, though, is him and Newey have been building their relationship again as friends. They've been hanging out together. They went to the Oasis concert together. Christian Horner and Adrian Newey hanging out. And it's now become a real option. Aston Martin could take Newey's money and he could buy in. The only problem is that Horner does face competition from other interested parties, because Aston Martin is not a backmarker team, is it? It's a mid-team. It's a great brand. They've got Adrian Newey. So the best thing Lawrence Stroll could do is bring in Adrian Newey. So the promise of another Newey car that can win a 15th Constructors' Championship or 14th Constructors' Championship means there's a lot of interest. People want to get in the F1 business. So, and you got to remember, Lawrence Stroll bought that team plus Aston Martin for about 400 million. So he has made a ton of money on that deal. And he's now valued at 2.5 billion. He's pretty much 5x'd his money, which is incredible. But he does want more money in the team, but he also wants to win. So he probably thinks there's an opportunity for a dream team here. You got all of the winning team from Red Bull back together. You know, you've got Horner, Newey, and Andy Cowell, which is the dream team that won all those championships at Red Bull. So why wouldn't they want to do that? If him and Newey are hanging out, going to Oasis concerts together, and they're obviously fine. Whatever that it was that they had between them, whatever the problem was, they've obviously ironed it out. Lawrence Stroll is like, hey, I'm willing to take investment. There's only two teams on the grid who have publicly said, we want to raise money. We want to sell some shares in our team. Alpine and Aston Martin. They're the only two teams on the grid who have publicly said we want to do this. Gene Haas hasn't said it publicly. There's been conversations behind closed doors, but he has not publicly said, hey, I want to sell a chunk of my team. Audi, they're definitely off the table now. Audi are not going to be selling any chunks of their team for 2026 or 2027. So the Aston Martin story is gathering such incredible momentum that it's looking more and more likely. And if it isn't the Aston Martin story, well, then it's Red Bull, it's Horner Racing. But the Aston Martin story gets Horner on the grid in 2026, which is what he wants. I'm going to go to the chat. So, yeah, Kyle said, I heard Newey and Horner were hanging out at a concert recently. They were. They went to the Oasis concert together, which is, you probably do know Oasis are one of the greatest bands in the world. Yeah, they went to the Oasis concert together. They've been hanging out. Whatever bridges that were burnt between them, they've got past it. And you got to remember, Newey wants to win as well. It's not just, and part of the Newey team was Horner and Cowell. So you've got literally, you're putting the band back together. It's literally what you're doing. If he goes to Aston Martin as an owner with all this money behind him, you're literally putting the band back together. You're putting Horner, Newey, and Cowell all back together in this dream team scenario with Lawrence Stroll. With Lawrence Stroll. I mean, it could be epic. I mean, I'm sure it's probably not Horner's driver lineup he'd want to keep. Because Horner's been ruthless with his drivers over the years, as we know. He has no problem dropping people. So what happens with that conversation? Lawrence, I want to replace Lance Stroll. I mean, the only thing that might be icky is I know Adrian Newey would perhaps quite like to have Max Verstappen in an Aston Martin. Would Max come to Aston Martin with Horner, Newey and Cowell? Here's my answer to that. Max Verstappen is the most ruthless driver on the grid. If Aston Martin bring the best car to Melbourne, yeah, Aston Martin won't give a shit. Max Verstappen won't give a shit. He just wants to be in the fastest car. That's simple as that. So if they did put the band back together at Aston Martin with Horner, Newey and Cowell, it'd definitely go. Oh, you're getting political now. Triple X is jumping in saying Max wouldn't give a shit, but Joss would. Now so Joss Verstappen, Max's dad. If you don't know, if you're just new to F1 and you're sort of new to the channel, Max Verstappen, greatest driver on the grid. He's got a dad called Jos Verstappen, and he is not backwards in coming forwards. Him and Horner are like fire and ice. They do not get on. And honestly, I would say Jos Verstappen and Helmut Marko were the two people who conspired to get rid of Horner. And I think Jos was basically saying, if Horner stays, I'm getting Max out of this team. And so, yeah, Jos doesn't like Christian Horner at all. And so that could be an issue. But Max is getting older every year, more mature, isn't he? Would Max tell Jos to piss off? If he wanted to go to that team, would he just say, Dad, please shut the fuck up? It's my life. Yeah, I want the fastest car and you need to relax and get out of the way. I don't know. Maybe he's getting to that point. What is he now? 28? Isn't that the point when you suddenly start going, hang on a minute, no one tells me what to do, including my own family. You've all got to relax. And maybe that would be the situation. But you're right. I can see the Jos Verstappen issue. But do they need him? That's the question. If you've got a Newey car, you've got a Horner's ruthless, managerial drive, man management, effective man management, and you've got Cowell, who is great on engines. And even though I know Honda are delivering that power unit, it's still great to have him in the stable. You've got, George Russell could drive the Aston Martin and win, couldn't he? Dare I say it, Lance Stroll. If the car's good enough and it's a Newey car, even you might see Lance Stroll becoming world champion. All I know though is that Horner, if there was a situation where Lance wasn't doing well, Horner would be. I can't imagine how that conversation would go between Horner and Lawrence. Lawrence. That doesn't sound. I'm doing Toto Wolff. Lawrence, I'm dropping your son. He's dropped. I don't know. I can't see that going well. I bet in everyone's contract, there's the small print that says you cannot. I decide the driver lineup. I bet maybe Lawrence Stroll retains that right. I don't know. Maybe he has a veto. I love that, Kyle. Fernando, 3 times champ. Do you know what? Just for the plot, I would love to see could be 45 next year, Fernando Alonso. I would love to see a 45-year-old doing it for the 40s, world champion. I'm here for it. What a great story. And I like Fernando Alonso as well. But there was a story that came out yesterday about Fernando Alonso saying he can't give a date of when he's retiring, but he'll know, and he's not scared of retiring. His body will just tell him, and it'll just be one day, I'm done. And I don't think he's got that long left. I think next season will be his last season regardless. But wouldn't it be great for Fernando Alonso to win a world championship at 45 in his final season? in F1. Yeah, Kyle says, how embarrassing to Red Bull if Stroll wins. I mean, it'll be great though, wouldn't it? Good, that'll be good for the plot as well. Let's say Horner, let's say now with this new, let's say Horner gets the winning bid for Aston Martin and he gets a big chunk of the team and he brings those investors. The team's all there. Him and Newey get on. Him and Cowell get on. But they're stuck with Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll next year. But Newey's been designing that car all year since he joined the team. That Newey car is going to be brilliant. I don't care what anyone says. That car is going to be brilliant. I've seen interviews that he's done. I've been analysing the subtext and the energy behind what he's saying. And he even said, and even Damon Hill came out and said, oh, Adrian Newey's found something in the regulations. Because Newey was saying, when he first saw the 2026 regulations, he didn't think there was much room for design. But on further inspection, I was wrong, basically. That's what Newey said. And then Damon Hill commented on Newey's comments and said, oh, yeah, because don't forget, Adrian Newey designed Damon Hill's World Championship winning car at the Williams. And Damon Hill came out and said, oh, yeah, that's classic Newey. He's found something, and he's found something. Look out, F1. He's going to bring a car. He's found something. And he thinks it was to do with suspension, actually. But that's Damon Hill. And he knows Newey from, well, forever, last 30 years. So Triple X says, can it wait until 27 though? We need another Fernando title. It'll be next year. If Fernando Alonso is going to win another world championship, it'll be next year, because the best chance for Aston Martin to capitalise on having the best car on the grid and having an Adrian Newey car, it's all about getting off with these new regulations to a flying start, and then everyone else is playing catch up. You'll never see a more diverse grid than Melbourne 2026, because when there's a major rule change and it's the start of a 5-year cycle, it's when everyone tries out their crazy shit. All the cars look different aero, different suspension, different parts, different braking ducts, different everything. And then what happens is, the people that get it right at the beginning in Melbourne, you'll see all the rest of the cars slowly over the next 12 to 18 months morphing in to that winning car from Melbourne. And they keep developing, and then people keep copying. When you've got Adrian Newey designing that car, that's your best chance to be that team who gets it right in Melbourne. That gets it right for the first race of brand new major regulation changes. Newey has the best chance of that. I promise you that. So, moving on from that, that means that, Fernando Alonso's best chance is 2026, because after that, 2027, the cars all morph to almost doing the same thing. They go down the same design cues, they go down the same engineering cues, things get changed, and they copy everyone, and they copy the cars at the quickest. So it gets harder, basically. So if you're in front in the first Grand Prix at Melbourne, that team has the best chance of winning next season. And if it's a Newey car, Fernando at the wheel, we could see it. It's definitely possible. Aston Martin is not even a wild card. Aston Martin, I think, are going to be at the front. I do. Here's the mic drop. I don't think Ferrari are going to be very good next year. That's my mic drop. I'm putting it out there now. I do not think Ferrari are going to improve. I think they're going to get worse next year. I know. A lot of people are going to hate me. A lot of Ferrari fans are there. I just can't see Ferrari bringing a good package in 2026 after everything that's going on in that camp. There's fractions everywhere. There's people falling out everywhere at Ferrari. You got Leclerc saying he's got his management looking for another team. You got Hamilton having his worst season in F1, no podiums. You've got people upset that Hamilton got the decision. You got them losing their top engine designers, and you got Fred Vasseur, who looks like he's a rabbit in the headlights. I don't think Ferrari are going to be good. That's my mic drop. I think a lot of people agree with me when I say Aston Martin could be the best team on the grid. That's what I think. Yeah, I'm going to go back to the chat. Triplex says, I think all the F fans will want to forget about this season if Lance wins. Well, if Lance Stroll wins in 2026 next season, I mean, yeah, you're right, Triplex. Aston Martin did it at the start of this previous new regs. They were good, weren't they? They came out with a great car. Fernando Alonso was loving life. Even Lance was quick. But yeah, I don't know why. Look, I'm going to stick up for Lance here. It's not Lance's fault that his dad's a billionaire, is it? I mean, here's my question to you, Triplex, and to Kyle and to Gemma, and I want an honest answer. If you were a billionaire and your flesh and blood, your son, wanted to be a Formula One driver, and don't forget, he did win. He has won championships. Didn't he win F2 and F3? Would you buy a Formula One team, put him in a driver's seat, and do everything to help him win if it was your son? And let's say he's not the best driver on the grid. So your commitment is, I need to build him a better car than everyone else to give him his best chance of winning the World Championship. Would you do it? As a billionaire, would you do it for your son? And be honest with me. Tell me the truth. This is for your flesh and blood, your son. Would you give him every advantage? Because it isn't Lance's fault, is it? Triple X says, Ferrari were only good when other teams weren't able to spend as much as they did. Now, because of the budget cap, they're exposed. Exactly that. The budget cap has made it 100% right. That's a great comment. That is a great comment, Triple X. Great comment. Because now we have the budget caps in F1 where in the past, teams were able just to throw more money at it to fix it. But now everyone's got a budget cap. They can't do that. You're right. Teams like Ferrari, who literally almost bankrupted their Ferrari brand many times over because of the race team under Enzo Ferrari, and he had to take all that money from Fiat. You're exactly right. Exactly right. It has exposed Ferrari because now you've got to work smart, efficient, pragmatic. You can't afford to make mistakes. It costs too much money. So I hate to say it, but that's how Germans build cars, right? Mercedes, Porsche, Volkswagen, Audi, Lamborghini now even. They're methodical. They have processes. They're rigid. And that's why those sorts of teams will do well. They know how to manage a budget. They do. Plus the fact they get the odd cheat code, don't they? Because Mercedes sell more cars than anyone else on the planet. Well, apart from Volkswagen Group, right? They've got all this extra data that they can call upon from their organization to help them, even if it's not direct F1 data. But don't you think they get extra help from all of these different factions should they need it? Of course they do. Of course they do. Right, so you've answered my question. Brilliant. So Triplex says, I don't work with family and friends, even as a non-billionaire, so no. It's your son we're talking about here. And you won't be working with him. This is a hobby. This is a hobby for a billionaire. This isn't a job. Like Lawrence Stroll, this isn't his job. Do you know what I mean? It's one of his... the race team's like a hobby. Aston Martin's not even a job for him. He's got many businesses, many interests, and he's the chairman of multiple companies. So yeah, this is for fun. Kyle says, I would buy a better son. Kyle. I'd buy a better son. Come on. Everyone bashes Lance Stroll. I don't... Is he the worst driver on the grid, Lance Stroll? He's not my worst driver on the grid right now. No way. Lance Stroll on his day is quick. Honestly, I know no one likes to hear me say this because of his privileges and his dad, but I'm telling you now, Lance Stroll is quick. Triplex says he's the worst experienced driver. Okay. Over a lap, though, Lance Stroll is quick. And actually, if you're comparing against Fernando Alonso, they've been, in qualifying over a lap, they've been close. They've been close. I agree with Lance Stroll his racecraft, bringing the car home, managing the race, that's where he gets exposed, really, I think. Over a 60, 70 lap race, he gets exposed because bad choices, this or that, maybe lost concentration, I don't know. But that's where Fernando really shows him up a little bit over the course of an entire Grand Prix. But over one lap, Lance Stroll, he can get the car around the track pretty quick. He can. Gemma says, I'm here for the plot with Lance. Controversial, yes, but I totally would. You totally would. Are you fancy? Oh, Gemma fancies Lance Stroll. Oh, you totally would. Oh, you mean you totally would help him win? Yeah. I know what you mean. You like me, loyalty to the family. I get it. Like the mafia. Yeah. So Triple X says, I feel like he does better when he qualifies P20. Yeah, do you know what? He hasn't. When he qualifies P20, he can put in some moves. Look, I think Lance Stroll. Here's what I really think with Lance Stroll. I think he's quick over a lap. I think over 70 laps, his racecraft isn't quite there. But could you imagine? Do I think he could improve to become a better version of himself, where he could win a world championship in a newie car, a good newie car? I think I have to say, oh, you're gonna hate me. I think there's a level. I think he can go up a level. Yeah, his awareness. Triple X says his awareness is in negative numbers. I agree. I'm not saying he's, and that's the difference between a quick driver and a successful Formula One driver. There's a lot of quick drivers over a lap, but a Grand Prix isn't just a lap, is it? There's racecraft. You need to know when to push, when not to push, when to go for the gap, when not to go for the gap, when to, really manage tyre management, and when to, and really now the way the sport is, he should have a lot of support around him to give him help. Maybe he doesn't take that help. Maybe he doesn't take those cues from his engineer, and maybe that's the problem. Maybe he's arrogant. But maybe we'll see a better Lance Stroll. And maybe if Horner does buy into Aston Martin and really becomes that major shareholder alongside Lawrence, maybe that could be part of Lawrence's strategy. Maybe someone like Horner working with Lance Stroll from a mentoring point of view might help him become a better driver. And maybe Lawrence thinks that might be an option. Lawrence will be thinking about all the options. He does want money. There's a lot of people who want to buy into the Aston Martin team. There is a stake up for grabs. Horner's got money, not just his 100 million. I mean, real money behind him. They want to buy into F1. But he's not on his own that could buy into Aston Martin. There are other suitors for those available shares. But as a fit, Horner, Cowell, Newey, it's like bringing the Beatles back together, right? That winning combination. I mean, if I was Lawrence Stroll, I'd be all for that. I'd be all for it. And if I was Christian Horner, I'd be all for it as well, because Aston Martin have got great new facilities. They've got a state-of-the-art wind tunnel just built this year. A whole new factory. Like, he's walking into a team that has really got all the resources you could possibly want. So it's a great option for Horner. Great option. Triple X says, I feel like the car would need to be at least 2 seconds faster than the next best car for him to win, or he'll eventually throw easy wins with stupid decisions. I agree the car would have to be a lot. For Lance Stroll to become world champion, the car's got to be easily 3/10 faster than the rest of the field. 3 or 4 tenths. That's what I think. Yeah, that's what I think. Gemma's jumped in. Who is Yoko in the Beatles metaphor? Well, I don't know, because you got Horner. I would say Horner is Paul McCartney. John Lennon is probably Adrian Newey. George Harrison is probably Cowell. and I would say Ringo Starr's probably, he's just coming. I'd say Ringo Starr's probably Lawrence Stroll. As for Yoko, well, Jerry Halliwell, Horner's wife. I'm going with Jerry Halliwell. The Dark Lord. No, the Dark Lord's Helmut Marko over at Red Bull. Oh, are you talking about when they were at Red Bull? Oh, yeah. Helmut Marko was Yoko 100% at Red Bull. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. So when all that team were at Red Bull, so what broke them up? That's brilliant. I get it now. I see what your metaphor is. So, yeah. So at Red Bull Racing, you had Horner, who was Paul McCartney. You had Newey, who was John Lennon. You had Cowell, who was Ringo, and George Harrison was probably, I don't know. Come back to me on that one. But Yoko was definitely Helmut Marko. 100%. 100%. That's funny. Yeah, definitely. But they're bringing the band back together. And now, so going back to my, just to wrap up this Horner stuff. So just to clarify my Horner options, Alpine, yes, still an option. Haas, gone down in likelihood. I'd say there's a 10% with Haas now. Audi, 0%. Aston Martin, I would say 30%. I'd say Alpine 30%, and I'd say Horner Racing 30%. And 10% Haas. That is the percentages I'd put on Horner's options now. And maybe even Aston Martin edging it a little bit. Maybe it's even more likely. Because it's probably a better setup than Alpine, and Horner probably feels that he can get back to winning ways far quicker with Newey, because Horner said his greatest ever signing at Red Bull was Adrian Newey. Imagine buying into a team when Newey's already there. I mean, Horner, I'm actually convinced. I'm going to change it. I think it's 60% Aston Martin, 20% Alpine, 20% his own team. I think because of joining up the dots, I think the Aston Martin opportunity will be Horner's favourite opportunity, because he knows he can take that team back to the top next year, straight back to the grid, winning ways, gets the shares that he wants. He's got Horner locked in because Horner's also an owner. His only stumbling block is he's got Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso next year, and they might not be his favourite driver pairing, but Alonso definitely could still got something to give. So and Lance maybe. So yeah. That's how I'm going to leave it. Those are my predictions. 10% Haas, 40% Aston Martin, 25% Alpine, 25% Horner Racing. Those are the stats I'm going with for Horner's likely return for 2026 or 27 if he has his own team. But this has been so funny tonight. We're talking about Beatles. You've been Lance Stroll bashing. We've talked about Horner. We're talking about Audi's return, which I'm so excited about. The new Audi engine is looking really good. So yeah, it's been a good show tonight, guys. It's been really good fun. Thank you so much for watching F1 Grandstand. Please like the video and smash and hit the bell button so you can stay up to date and be notified. It makes a massive difference to the success of the channel. I will be back tomorrow for Friday Night Live. Make sure you tune in, 7:30 GMT. We'll be talking about everything that we've been talking about this week, all of the week's news stories and what's going on tomorrow as well. And also we'll be rounding up the practice sessions over in Singapore and any news that's coming out of that camp. Oh, and by the way, I'll be streaming live for the free practice 1 and free practice 2. So join me for that as well. If you are watching it, we can all watch it together. All right, guys, thank you so much. You made it super fun. Brilliant. I will see you tomorrow. Ta-ta.